So, Christian, I see you do many things. You do music, you do podcasting, you're an actor, do all sorts. How do you manage your time with six plus things?
You remember when you were a kid and there was that thing where you had to like spin plates, and every time one of this plates starts to fall off, you get a bit of an anxiety rush and you like start panicking, right? Um, Basically that's how I deal with stuff. I just look at it like I'll get to it and I'll run over to it and I list things as according to like urgency. But the reality is every day is different. You know, like today I've been working like crazy and I'm nowhere near done. This is only halfway through my day. But then another day will come where there's like nothing to do. There's always something to do, but there'll always be like days when you rest more and etc. But I guess that's always been the way I've approached things, even before I was doing creative stuff, like in marketing. That's what I studied at uni. Same thing, you know, you would just go by listing, okay, what's the most urgent thing that requires my attention? Google Calendar is your friend. I've said this on other shows, but like you just have a calendar, have a diary, have to-do lists, organize yourself, organize your time, and it will get a bit easier. And of course, if you're just worried about the whole anxiety stress factor, just break stuff down into like really small goals and just tick it off. And every time you tick something off, a little bit of anxiety will leave your system and you'll feel a little bit better. Like I get this every single time. Just on a side note, when I do like auditions and like voice auditions, what I'll do is I'll save them all up and do them all in one go. And every time I look at the screen and there's like 15 things to audition for, I get really stressed. But then I start doing it and I remember that it doesn't take that long, but I still get that stress every time. So you just have to kind of just do it, but just find your organized method for approaching it.
How many hours of your day are productive then?
Depends on the day. Ever since I went self-employed a few years back, it kind of threw the whole approach to this thing. So the irony is, in the time that I've been self-employed, I work harder now than I ever did in any like full-time role. Not just because I'm more invested in what I do, but also like, I don't know, when it's your own stuff, I suppose you're just more invested and passionate about it and you put the time and the level of effort in. But to address the question, like, I guess I try to kind of operate within the like 9 to 5 window. Obviously I make exceptions if there's like a lot of work I've got to do, right, but I try to have that kind of structure.
But it does feel like in our world, there's this thing where people will hate on the 9 to 5 structure and routine. But for some people, like, that's great. Like I did like the school thing of you have to be here at 8:45 and you get to leave at 4 p.m.
Man, what were we moaning about as well? Yeah. Like the most of the time we got to leave at like 3:45, 4 p.m.
Yeah, and
like
I think
now, lucky you leave past 6.
Exactly, and I think the sacrifice you make when you have to like not go down that ordinary path and do something different is you have to make your own decisions and your own routines, and you can end up working more because maybe it's something you love, but also you have to do that because you are your own boss. There's no one telling you when you can leave. You have to get through as much as you can to get where you want to go, really.
The key as well is finding what works for you specifically. So like you mentioned there, like the 9 to 5 system as a concept isn't necessarily bad. And it's like, well, yeah, depends who you are. That's just the hours I generally operate within. But truthfully, I operate outside of that because I do like my live streams later in the evening to target the American audience. So short answer, yes, you have to sacrifice a lot of time for it. But again, that's where the kind of juggling aspect comes into play. I learned this trick off someone on Hollyoaks. I recently appeared on that. I asked one of the main cast like how he learns his lines because I was just like, this is impossible. Because what they do is they film several things at once in a day from different episodes. I'm like, how do you do that? And he's like, the way that I figured it out is to literally learn it like the night before and just make full use of your short-term memory. Like, yeah, the days up to that, I'll have to sacrifice time and maybe I won't do live streams on those days.
what separates a very good actor from a mediocre actor?
There are levels to this, for sure. You want to be a good actor, well, you need to practice every single day, right? When I got into acting, I remember initially thinking a lot of the major actors I would see in the industry, not all of that, there were people that were amazing that I look up to, and then there were other people that I saw in the industry and I just thought, they're not a very good actor. I don't buy them. I don't believe them in this role or what they're doing. And I'd look at them and I'd be like, I don't doubt that they put hard work in, but it comes down to believability, versatility. You know, it's very easy to play 1,500 roles that are all the same character, but to play a bunch of different roles and to not only be able to convincingly play that that character, but also win over the audience, make them believe, yes, I am this person. Good examples include, say, Johnny Depp, Jared Leto. Jared Leto is often referred to as chameleon, meaning that, like, in many roles, like, he not only can play the role, but like you wouldn't even necessarily know it's him. Like, I think he's going to appear in the upcoming Willy Wonka film, and I didn't even recognize him. I was like, oh shit. The commitments to roles. Obviously, Christian Bale is a good example of this, often losing weight or gaining weight for roles. I pay a lot of attention to body language. For instance, I did a gangster style role recently, but I wasn't playing a gangster. I was playing like someone who owed money. And something that was interesting about this particular scene was I found this out a few days prior, maybe. So originally I thought I was a gangster. So I had this idea of how I play the role in my head, and then I got told, no, you owe money. Like, you got to play it like, you know, differently. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I imagined a man who's scared, cowering a little bit, nervous. And what was brilliant about this was that my co-star, his name's Dan, we've worked on films together, he's brilliant. He's our main guy, he's the lead actor, and he's behind a desk and he's menacing, he's angry, he's on the phone, he's shouting at people, he's all doing all this, right? And he's smaller than me, he's shorter than me. Not that it really matters with the desk, right? But obviously, even when you're sitting down, you can sometimes notice the height differential, right? And you notice it again later in the scene with another character I interact with who's shorter than me, but is menacing. And like, we pass each other in the door and I'm like scared shitless kind of thing. The way that I made that more convincing was by like hunching my character's shoulders and kind of doing this kind of, how can I put it? Like a bumbling fool kind of a bit like uncomfortable in his own skin, but everyone else in the scene is very comfortable. The boss is comfortable. The guy that comes through the door is very comfortable. These characters like have like strong backs, serious faces. The whole time I'm like just like worried, like like this kind of thing. So I guess
attention to detail.
Right, precisely. It's dedication to those details. Look, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm the world's best actor. I'm still working at it. But I see a lot of people at the very top who maybe don't put that effort in. I see a lot of actors that do. I want to copy the actors that do.
What I want to know is, you said you started acting 5 years ago, and you did marketing at uni.
Mm-hmm.
What made you want to go into this? Because was it always a thing that you did as a teenager? Were you in school plays? Did you do it at uni? Were you part of some theatre group? And what takes a guy from doing a marketing degree suddenly going, right, I want to go self-employed and try and do some acting bits?
So I was originally a musician. I've been a musician all my life. And I chased that dream for a while. When I was between the ages of about 18 to 20, 17 to 20, something like that. I was in a band for 3 years. And we were really fucking good. For real. I can say that with pride. Like, we were good. We were going somewhere. And I fucked it up. I was too hard on everybody. I sucked the fun out of it. And I learned some valuable life lessons at the time. Was very bitter about it at the time. It didn't work out. And, you know, I was in a very different headspace back then. But basically, I tried music for a few years after that. I was in a few bands after that. I did my own acoustic thing after that. Nothing really worked out. And I was kind of at a loss. And here was my biggest mistake was I let people get in my ear, people older than me, who, you know, were retired and seemingly had a good life. And here I am working at a supermarket part-time and not really doing anything with my life, and music's not working. I remember this vividly. I was sitting in this room of someone's house, and someone's like uncle or grandfather was there, and I was talking to him, and he was like a retired teacher or something. And I still felt like I was in the room with the teacher. Like I was 20, 21 years old, but I was like being told off. And I remember going like, "Oh, I'm pursuing music," and he looked at me blankly, like, you know, like kind of like, yeah, but okay, well, what are we seriously doing? And normally at that age, I was quite defiant, like, "No, what do you mean? I'm going to do this. I don't care what anyone says. I'm doing this. I'm pursuing this. You know, I'm going to be a rock star." Like that kind of shitty attitude. I think there's something to that as well if you believe in yourself. But truth is, I didn't really believe in myself, but I desperately loved this thing, and it was my dream, and it was what I wanted to do, and I worked hard for it, but it wasn't working out. And this guy was like, "You need to get a real job. You need to get specialism." And he pushed the idea of uni. And for the first time, I sort of backed down and I listened, and I was like, maybe this guy's right. It was kind of sad. I gave up on music and I went and I studied marketing. I thought like, oh, maybe this could work. This is creative. Maybe I could find something in this. And you know what? Like at the time, I'm not going to lie, it's not revisionist history. At the time, it felt right. You know, I cut my hair. I changed up. I'm dressing in suits, and I'm like Billy Big Bollocks, studying like a management and marketing degree. And it wasn't until about a year in that I realized that, oh no, this is bullshit. This isn't what I want to do. But I was in at that point, and I still figured like I should give it a go. Like I was like, okay, well, I know that this isn't necessarily exactly what I want to do in my life, but maybe when I start working in that field, I'll feel differently. So I finished the degree. I played around with music and content and stuff at the time, but never really anything serious. I looked at it for what it was, a pipe dream. So I continued, I finished my degree, couldn't find work at all, had to move to a different country to find work with my then partner. And that's when I started building my marketing career. And you know what? For the first 8 months, I loved it. It was great. I couldn't believe they paid me money to just sit at a computer and just write emails and social media posts. I was like, this is ridiculous. I love this. And then one day I just wake up and I felt really unfulfilled. I was like, what am I doing? And I felt angry at myself. I felt like if I could have had a conversation with myself, it would have been something like, how dare you, you know, not be grateful for this? How dare you have this attitude? You have everything, you know, like what do you want? What is it? And I just realized that was the beginning of me starting to realize who I actually am, not what the world tells me I am or what I should be, but what I really am. And what I really am is this person who has an unconventional life, who doesn't do things the way society tells them to, or the way that most people tell them they should be doing things. I got to do it my way because I'm really stubborn like that. One day in the office, a guy comes up to me. And again, I'm living in Europe at the time, in this country called Estonia. This guy comes up to me and he's like, oh, hey, I know some people that are doing a short film, and they're looking for a British guy from London to play in it. And I just thought it was really funny. I was like, oh yeah, of course you're looking for a guy from London, from England. Like, you know, like I'm the only English guy in like 1,000 miles. Let's do it. So I apply. I don't really think anything of it. I get the role, find out it's the lead role. So now I've got to like actually sit down and make some effort and, you know, and so I study it and I take some time off work. I do it. I turn up day one to record. I'm in character. I've got my everything on. And I just absolutely fall in love with it. I'm like, this feels right. I remember at the time thinking, this feels like performing on a stage, music. You know, there's good sex and then there's the best sex you've ever had in your life. You know what I'm saying? It was like that. It was like, oh my God, this ticks all the boxes. And it's interesting, over the years, every single time I get the opportunity to act in something, I feel the exact same way as the first time I did it. That's how I know it's what I'm supposed to do in life. Now, years later, I'm trying to address this in the best way I can, but it's not like it clicked straight away. Like, yeah, I felt that way, but it wasn't like, oh, okay, well, I'm just going to dedicate my life to acting then. I just kept doing it. I kept kind of doing that, working the marketing job. And I was like, well, let's just see what happens. Decided to finally kickstart my YouTube, which is something I always wanted to do, but I just never really properly did it. Started uploading stuff there, started experimenting, started meeting people online, some of whom I ended up doing a very short-lived podcast with. Eventually, I go and do my own. Year by year, I keep trying lots of different things: Twitch, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, etc. I just keep exercising all these different things that I love to do. And I try my best to try and be successful in those things. And the biggest thing I learned throughout that experience is these are the things I love to do. I want to continue to do these things. And at one point, I remember thinking like, oh, I have to make these things successful. That's changed. Now I'm more in the headspace of, I just need to do these things to be happy. Of course, I want to be like a hugely successful actor and have a hugely successful podcast and all these other things, right? But at the end of the day, whatever you do in life, you need to absolutely love it, because that's when you'll get the best out of that thing. That's when you'll get the very best out of that. I said to you guys before we started recording that, like, when it comes to your podcast and moving it forward, it'll be good if you guys love it. It'll be brilliant if you guys are fully invested in it and you put your heart and your soul into it.
I love how you've told that story there, because you didn't just tell me your like occupation over various years. You went into your mental state at each time, and it was kind of like we saw this character arc as you talk about the realizations that you have now looking back on things, and that's really, really nice to hear. And it is interesting that way that creatives, because creative spaces are so hard to get into, and it is literally the 0.1% that take like 99% of the attention. There is that classic trait of like the misunderstood creative that no one else understands. But it's true, isn't it? It's like, but and it seems like you had to leave that path for some time to because you were trying to fit the mold that everyone tries to create for you, to then realize, now, even if I don't get any massive monetary success, I have to do this for me, and that's commendable, man.
I'll add something else to this, which I think is really interesting. So it's twofold. Years ago, I watched The Office, the UK version by Ricky Gervais. I'm a huge fan of his. He didn't become famous or successful in his own right until well into his 30s. And at that point, he'd worked in an office. It was legit. He's always written about what he knows. He worked in an office, and he actually had a boss that was like David Brent. Now, that show, there's many reasons why that was successful, but I come to believe that one of the biggest reasons was it was so authentic. It really injected a dose of realism into what was a great format and great jokes and everything, but there was a dose of realism that people were clamoring for.
Yeah, because people you can recognize when you see those characters, you can relate that to people you literally know in your own life, and that's why it makes it funnier, because you're like, that's real. I experienced that.
Right. And that is a concept I've applied to everything I do, be it acting, be it podcasts, be it what I do online. I don't play a persona. This is me. I am a real person. I don't show every single shade of my personality. I think you should keep a private life to yourself, but I don't lie either. I said that this was twofold. The other aspect to this, which dates back to when I first started my YouTube account, is this idea that like you have to have like ideas for content, right? But you also have to like live a little. When I first started my YouTube account, it was back in like 2013, 2014. I was like every other single person, right? Where I just looked at it and I was like, oh, I can do that. I've got, I can perform, I can do that. And I stand by all the music stuff I did, but all the YouTube content I made at the time was trash because I was just trying to do the same thing everyone else was doing. And it was fake and it wasn't real. And it was the shits. No one cared because you see like 1,000 other people doing the same thing. The thing that tends to make people stand out is either a character or a unique concept they've never seen before, or a unique take on something that already exists, or something totally original. A real person you can relate to, or a character you can relate to, or whatever. But the key factor in that is you got to inject like your passion and into that thing, and you got to believe it. You got to really believe that thing. When I first started YouTube, like I said, everything I tried was just trash. And I remember at the time thinking, okay, one day I'm going to return to this when I have ideas for something I can do. And I did do that, but I had to live a life first. I had to go through extremely difficult times, horrible times, dark times, and come out the other side and actually have something to speak about. This year, I turned 30 years old. I've got some things to talk about. I don't shut up. This is why I try to kind of limit that in real life. I save the talking for online when it matters. Things like a podcast, great time to talk, right? But I know when to shut up. I know to listen more than speak. You notice every time you open your mouth, I shut up and I listen to what you say, because I'd rather listen and learn than repeat what I've repeated 1,500 times. You don't learn anything by talking. But I think a lot of people want to be heard. They want to get their message out there. But people aren't always hearing each other. I'll share one final thing. Like when I do my podcast and I have people on the show, part of the reason why I love doing that show so much is because every single time a new person comes into my sphere and they teach me about life, they talk about their life, I explore their life with them, or a particular topic that we're going through, but I learn and I apply those principles to my own life. And basically throughout my life at all times, I'm learning and just being in this moment right now and trying to get everything from it. And I think that the more you commit to that and you put your heart and your soul into things, and the more you're true and honest to who you are and your vision of the world and what you like to do, the more you stand out, the more people are like, oh, wow, that's interesting. This person, because most people don't do that. Most people are, too busy apologizing.
They don't think they have any value to provide.
Precisely. Yeah. It fucking sucks when you don't believe in yourself, man. I've been there. I used to hate myself. A decade ago, if you'd have told me that I would be doing the things I'm doing now, I never would have believed you. I would have said something like, oh yeah, whatever, that thing only happens to like successful people or like, strong people or whatever. I would have just had some like shitty response.
But where specifically do you think believing in yourself comes from? Is it from what you do, or is it ruthlessly trying to instill those thoughts in your brain? Because from my perspective, I think the only way that I've ever built any confidence with anything is having some kind of proof in the real world. And it might be the case for you that when you started seeing yourself, like how many podcast episodes you've done, doing that film you did in Estonia and seeing yourself playing that role, enjoying it, you had that real world proof that like, oh, I can do this.
The problem is, especially in the UK, we get taught from a young age to be really, really modest and humble, which concepts in general are brilliant. It's brilliant to be modest and humble, right? It makes you more likable. It makes you more relatable. But at the same time, we're also taught to like not celebrate ourselves, which I think is so stupid.
You mentioned that you've been through some tough times. What helped you get out of those?
I've always kind of been quite a stubborn person. I just kind of keep waking up and keep trying, and I don't know where that comes from, to be honest. I know it's not anything I was taught to do. It's just part of my personality, I guess. The other side of it is, I suppose, because I've got like kind of like a pragmatic approach to things, like problem solving mind. I always kind of look at things like there must be a way for things to get better. Now, how I feel is different. In those times, truthfully, I felt like it would never get better. But I knew that sitting feeling sorry for myself wouldn't change anything. I knew that if I was going to get out of those scenarios, I had to do something about it. And I'd always slowly try and do something. The only times when I didn't do anything was when I just genuinely didn't know what to do. I don't think there's anything wrong with feeling sad, feeling sorry for yourself. But at the same time, you do need to eventually kind of stop and then get up and start trying again. Hard times are going to happen. You know, it's life. That's what it is. Even in good times, bad times will come. But I think the biggest thing I've learned is that whatever life throws at you, you are strong enough to deal with it. You might not have realized it just yet, but you will. You'll get there. And then you'll just look at it as, oh, hey, this is just stuff I have to deal with, but I'll get through it just like I did everything else.
When you say you knew you had to get up and do something, what were those things? Was it your creative outlets, or was it other simple, just like what we call self-care habits? Like when you were in that dark place and you were like, I need to get up and go, where did you go?
I mean, there's different things. More recently, I had a bit of a dark moment about 6-7 months back, maybe a bit longer, maybe about 9 months ago. The first thing I did was bury myself in work. And part of that was to distract myself. But actually, the bigger reason was I understood and knew on a conscious level that the organization and the structure of work would help me. I can
100% relate to that, because actually I was a pretty normal kid up until like age 15, 16 when the lockdowns hit and everything. And my mum was worried for a good time that I had mild OCD, because I suddenly went into like structuring my day monk mode style, went to like straight A student, all of that. And I can completely relate to that control helped me with the fact that life suddenly became uncertain and my emotions were all over the place. So I totally get that.
Sometimes that's not possible though. And in those moments, you know, I just kept waking up, just kept going. Sometimes life is so difficult and so tough that all you have is wake up, keep going, try to make the best of it. Yeah, I've said this in my live streams before to my audience, like, hey, if you woke up this morning and all you did was get out of bed and you just, you know, you took care of yourself, you should be proud of yourself. It's not always that easy. Over the years, I think I've taken for granted my ability to get up and go and just do things. I always took it for granted and just assumed that everyone was like that. And then I met a lot of people that weren't like that and didn't have the ability to do that. And so I realized like a lot of that comes from self-beliefs, a sense of self-worth. And this is why I always push the idea that you need to learn to love yourself.
Joel, you've got a friend that's trying to be an actor.
Mm-hmm.
What's the best things to do to get into acting?
That's that age-old question, isn't it? It's hard.
Is it the thing of doing 100 auditions and maybe you'll get one and it's just a volume game?
You're going to get a lot of rejection. That's something you have to accept straight off the bat. And if you get rejected, don't take it personally. You just keep putting yourself out there. The truth is, there's no right answer to this. There's a million ways to become an actor. Some people go the drama school route, study it. Maybe they get lucky that way. Other people meet the right person. That's their in. Other people, you know, like myself, just frequently just work like a crazy madman and hope that someone sees it one day. It depends. it's one of those industries, and much like life, where it's all about who you know. That's one of the biggest truths in life. And a lot of people say that that's like a negative. And I think that, yeah, it does kind of suck that the world is like that and not everything is based on merit. But at the same time, I think it forces you to spend more time working on yourself and being a better, networker, and putting yourself out there, being bold. The people that become successful are the ones bold enough to throw themselves out there and say, I'm good enough, fucking hire me. And you have to have that belief in yourself. And I think a lot of people are afraid to do that because, oh, what will people think of me? Will people judge me? Will people try and tear me down? It's like, probably, but that's not your concern. Your concern is placing a bet on yourself and doing what's right for you. Now, with your friend that's trying to get into the industry, all I can say is just set yourself very clear goals of what you're trying to achieve and slowly cross them off. For the UK, it's getting on Spotlight is a big one. This website that basically, supposedly, that's the only place you can get like casting directors pay any attention to you or whatever. You got to do a lot of admin basically and get yourself out there. You can't expect things to just come to you because that's just not how life works. You got to throw yourself out there, make those opportunities, and every time you get one of those opportunities, fucking nail it. Work hard, nail it. Doesn't matter if it's some unpaid student project or a feature film. Put the same amount of effort into it each and every time, and maybe you might get lucky.
Like that thing that you say, Joel, like sometimes in life you do good shit, but the rest of the time you have to make shit good.
Yeah, totally. It's like I've never you never regret working hard on something and doing it well, like no matter what it is, because then you learn the skill of doing things well that you can then apply to anything. You learn the skills of consistency and stuff. So I like that. I think that's a nice answer. And it seems like the running theme is that everything comes down to self-worth, how you view yourself, and how you view your ability to take on challenges and things.
There was a recent rejection I got from one agency where I met a guy on set. It seemed really promising. He was an actor who's doing well anyway. He's part of this agency. And it really seemed like I was going to get signed with this company. And then at the last minute, it was just like, nah, sorry, don't think we can help you. But they wouldn't really tell me why. They just said it was not possible with the way I work or something like that. And I felt really shit about it for the better part of a couple of days. I just felt terrible. But what am I going to do? Give up? Stop doing it? Be like, oh, yeah, guess he's right. Guess I should just call it a day. Like, fuck that. No, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep trying. You don't give up trying to ask people out relationship-wise. If people reject you, you don't think, oh, well, I guess I'm just not cut out for love. Because it doesn't always happen for me. When it does, I go all out.
Well, I think one of the biggest performance enhancers in anything you do is enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Everyone can do the usual things that humans do, but like when someone asks you how you are, don't just say fine, say fantastic. And just that tiny little change to a normal mundane conversation, something in their brain will go, oh, that's not how someone usually replies. Like, what is this person about? Like, I 100% agree. People feed off your vibe.
I had a university professor in my second year of university. He often did guest lectures, but we actually had him for a term to do something. I hated his subject. It was boring. It sucked. But we went to every single lecture because when this guy spoke about whatever the fuck it was, I think it was strategic management or something boring as ass. But the way he spoke about that and how passionate he was about that, like I just went there to sit and listen to him speak because it was just brilliant. I just loved how passionate he was and engaged he was. Like he even occasionally made me care, but mostly I just wanted to sit and listen to him. And I think that's right there. Like you said, having an enthusiasm in things is just, it is infectious and it draws people in. Because I think it makes people ask the question, why are they so enthusiastic? What have they got to be happy about? Where can I get some of that?
Shakespeare says we're all actors.
It's true.
What does this look like in real life?
Okay, so what I take from that saying is that we play many roles. in life. Technically, we are all actors. If you really think about it, you are playing all sorts of roles. So let's say you're a father, right? But you also may be a teacher, or I don't know, a manager or something. And in those two different instances, you play a very different role. You don't approach them the same way. They use different parts of yourself. Sometimes people lie, and they have to be a really good liar. When Shakespeare said that, and when he said, you know, the world's a stage, there's opportunities to do that at every point. In this Michael Caine book that I read recently, I mentioned this on another show I was on recently, he'd said that everywhere you go is an audition, is an opportunity to win people over, you know, and that's why, like, everything that I do, for instance, if I do podcast appearances, it'd be very easy to just come on your show and be like, yeah, I'm an actor, I'm great, just go check out my Patreon, sub to me, like, you know. Or I could make an effort and be invested and care about what you have to say, and maybe in that I might win some people over, or not. But either way, I'm going to do that and enjoy this moment and make the most of it. And I think that really was the spirit of what Shakespeare was trying to say. He was trying to say, like, you know, if the world is a stage and we're all actors, why not put on the best performance of all time? Why half-ass it? Why only put half of yourself in it? If you're going to do that, you're not going to get an applause, are you? You're going to get a golf clap. You know, so put yourself in it completely and fully, and then that's when you're going to get the standing ovation.
The way I like to think about it is you have to be the hero of your own life.
Yeah.
You know, and the hero doesn't necessarily mean that you will always have things go well for you. The heroes that we love in movies and TV, they deal with some dark stuff. They deal with some pain. But the hero comes out on the other side and makes something positive of it.
I think another thing to add to this as well is that, look, you're going to be different people throughout your life. Sometimes you're the hero. Sometimes you're the bad guy. Sometimes you're caught somewhere in between. It's a journey. You're going to learn. And some people never learn, and they make the same mistakes constantly, and their life is very difficult. If you learn the lessons that life gives you, your life will get easier. It won't necessarily get easier from the perspective of like things happening to you and stuff, but it will get easier in the sense that you'll learn and be more capable of dealing with things when they come your way. That's the concept of strength. See, and just on a side note, for anyone that gets like hate comments and stuff like this, consider this. When was the last time you saw someone that was genuinely happy in life tearing other people down?
Yeah, so true.
Happen.
Like, I remember hearing on Rogan years ago where he just was joking about saying Michael Jordan doesn't leave YouTube comments. It's just like, I always remember that. I'm just like, yeah, no one ever hates down. Do you know what I mean? It's always people looking up. It's always the crabs in the bucket, and it's hurt people that hurt people.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the reasons why I love going to gym, because everyone I see in there is trying to better themselves, and everyone there started at a point where they sucked. They had no strength and they couldn't do jack shit, and now they're really strong, or maybe they're halfway through the journey, or, you know, whatever. But everyone's there trying to better themselves, and everyone's, for the most part, like if you talk to them, they'll help you.
You're the main character of your life, and all of those people, the naysayers, they feel like a side character. And they're kind of waiting. They're seeing you on stage doing your thing, and they're like, I want to be out there. I want to have my journey. I want to be doing my thing. And they're lost at the end of the day.
I remember hearing a story, and you can check this out, I'm pretty sure this is accurate, about Lady Gaga when she was first starting out. Supposedly, she got bullied quite mercilessly at school or something like that. And these people that hated her went to I mean, it's ridiculous. They went to the point of like setting up like a Facebook group where they were like haters of her, right? And supposedly the story goes that she turned around to them and she said, one day there won't be a street or a road anywhere where you won't see a billboard of my face on it. And she was right. She's one of the biggest stars in the world.
And either win with us or watch us win.
Compassion is always the appropriate response, and that's why, you know, you had Jesus Christ saying always turn the other cheek. It's like I have this theory that if I was that person with their brain, with their circumstances, with their past, I would do the same thing.
So what's next for Christian Reeve?
Well, I don't know. I might just like sit down, get sent to eat, chill out. Who knows, man? But you know what? It's exciting. Life right now is more fun than it's ever been. And it's because I am placing bets on myself and trying and just sort of seeing what happens. And every day is different. I
Seem
hope...
like you're living on the edge.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. But it's exciting, man. It is. I learn things every single day. Every single day is different. You know, some days are good, some days are bad, some days are... Most days are in between, to be honest. A lot of the time when people ask me, like, hey, how are you? I'm like, I don't know. Like, you know, I mean, I'm happy to be alive. I'm happy to, you know, get the opportunity to do things like this and talk to people. And I'm always humbled when anyone gives a shit. Like when you guys reached out, I was like, oh, wow, I'm so flattered that they cared, you know, and that never stops being amazing to me.
Now, before you leave, I thought I'd ask you to do a couple of impressions. I thought I looked on your Instagram and I was very impressed by the width. Like you range from doing all sorts of impressions.
I've been known to do a few over the years.
First, could you do an average teenager?
I hate this. You really put me on the spot.
Wait, these aren't ones that Jacob's seen on your Instagram. Jacob, you're just giving him ones off the cuff.
Yeah.
Bloody hell.
Well, you know, I wanted life to test me. This is a test. All right. What would you want him to say? What's the scenario?
You've just got in from school and your mum wants you to tidy your room and you don't want it.
Okay. Oh, Mum, I don't want to do that. Fuck off. No, I'm not going to do that. Why? I want to go play Fortnite.
Oh, you got to get the Fortnite reference in there.
Yeah.
No, I like it, man. This is good. Yeah.
It's terrible. I'm so ill. I have to sit and like prepare this shit normally.
What's the best impressions you can do?
SpongeBob SquarePants.
Yeah.
Do Krusty the Krab.
Yeah,
You're not funny. Ow, 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 ow. There you go. That's Krusty the
Quality.
Krab.
That's quality.
Star Wars. You ever seen Star Wars?
Yeah.
The prequels. We do Anakin because he's quite easy. He's like pissy, moany teenager, isn't he? He's just like, I hate sand. It's so coarse and rough, and it gets everywhere. I don't fear the Jedi as you do. What's he said? I am building this for my new empire. I slaughtered them all. And not just the women, but the children too. I'm haunted by the kiss you never should have given me. It's just weird dialogue, man, that they chose to go with. Like, this is where the fun begins. I can sort of do Obi-Wan. Everyone can do Obi-Wan, though, can't they? Just, hello there. Like, easy. Easy peasy.
You're a gangster.
Hey, there's the gabagoo, huh? You ever seen Sopranos? That's a Sopranos reference.
Not bad. It's good, man. Thank you very much. We put you on the spot there. No, you did all right. You did all right.
People are going to see this and going to be like, this guy can't act for shit. You've exposed me. I'm a fraud. Oh, man.
Well, thank you very much for your time, man. It's been a good conversation.
We'll end it there.
Yeah, on that bombshell.
If people want to look at your stuff, where should they go?
The easiest way is to go to my link tree. So I have a link tree. It's link.tr/ee. Sorry, link.tr.ee/Christian Reeve. If you just follow me on Instagram, you can find all my links there. Or if you go to my website, www.christianreeve.com. I'm sure the lovely gents here will include all of my links in the description below, hopefully, fingers crossed. But yeah, that's the easiest place because it's got like everything in there: the podcast, the Patreon, Twitch, TikTok, YouTube, etc.
Brilliant. Cool. Thank you very much, everyone.
Christian.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been an honor. Thank you.